I used to love climbing as a kid. I was in the high school climbing club, and I would go with my friend Dave, and we were pretty much equal climbing that wall at our school climbing club in the gym. After the first week or two, we knew every hold on it, and we would scurry up and down with ease. It was kind of freeing to be at the top of that wall, even though it was only like, I don't know, 15 feet high. When you're up there, you're kind of alone, and no one really can bother you with any small talk, I guess. It's something I used to look forward to every week. You'd kind of hang out with your friends and support them as they climbed. At first it was a challenge, but then it became about how quickly can we do it, and it all felt very safe. But towards the end of the term, our teachers booked a trip to the climbing wall at the leisure centre in the next town over, and this climbing wall was like at least 3 times higher than the one we'd been practicing on, and it had overhangs, more technical kind of climbing opportunities. It was just much more serious. There'd be other groups than our own there, and it was high. It was very high, the highest thing I would ever have climbed. And the thing was, at our school climbing club, I guess it didn't feel like you could die if you fell. There was a rope, but it didn't feel like you'd even be that badly injured. There were like crash mats below you. I think maybe you'd turn your ankle over or something like that. I don't know, but it all felt very safe and manageable. For some reason, I started a sort of cycle of self-talk about this climbing trip that was really negative. I still don't know quite why, but I became fixated on the height of this climbing wall that we would be climbing on in a few days. And I mean, I wasn't thinking about it all the time, but when we got into the minibus to go on the trip, all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is real now. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be on the minibus. I wish I'd have just like skipped this. And to try to make myself feel better, I started talking to the other kids and saying like, you know, it's really high, and what if we fall? And a few of my friends in the minibus were like, yeah, like, no, that is bad. But then common sense kicked in, and they were like, yeah, it's high, but I mean, it's like really no different to what we've been doing. It's safe. Like, nobody falls from these climbing walls. There's a rope. Like, what? There's not really a problem here. And they turned around and sort of perhaps talked amongst themselves about how excited they were to do it. But for some reason, I don't really understand. This pattern of negative self-talk had just built up so much momentum with me. And it wasn't like this was something I did all the time. Maybe there's like a little groove that I get into sometimes, but it just really got up steam. I was genuinely scared about doing this and sort of dreading arriving at the place. When we arrived, I didn't volunteer to go first, second or third. It really was high. It was the highest in the area locally. In my mind, it was Everest. It was Meru. It was the Dawn Wall. My trusty friend Dave stayed at my side. Dave wouldn't leave me. He sort of hung back with me, and we did a bit of bouldering and played on one of the low overhangs that was like technically quite difficult. I wasn't actually strong enough to do it, but I was like, oh, I'm just going to stay here and do this. This is more interesting than going high up the wall, conveniently. And the truth was, I wasn't going anywhere near the wall. The other kids were climbing right to the top. I considered many of them to be weaker climbers than me. And they must be terrified up there. Like, what fool's going all the way up there? But I was surprised when I actually looked at their faces. They were smiling. They were loving it. And then my friend Dave turned to me and said, I want to do it. Now it's just me. Sure enough, in record time, he was at the top of the wall, looking back down at me and waving. I felt alone and scared. Maybe I should give it a try, but no, I didn't want to. Maybe another day, but my head wasn't in the right place. I needed to reset and just like wake up on a different day with a different mindset, and maybe not have all these people that I'd spoken to about how scary this was, and just figure it out for myself. And then the shout echoed through the room. Has anyone not had a turn on the wall? I said, I don't want to. I'm busy on this boulder. And they said, just do this small wall. It wasn't small. It was about twice the height of the wall I was used to. But to be honest, like, it felt okay. It started off on a bit of a slope. I thought, well, maybe I could do this and then maybe work up to the big wall. Maybe if I just do this, I can get out of here. I can save face. Just ignore what people are thinking or what I think they're thinking, and get this whole thing off my back. So I attached the harness and approached the wall, but it was too late. Even now that my mind was willing, my body had absorbed all of these negative messages about what was happening, and the negative spiral had gone too far. I was like adrenalized. I could barely coordinate my leg to find the first foothold, which was only a few inches from the ground. I was shaking. Maybe I can settle down, and once I get on the wall, I'll feel calm like I sometimes do when we're climbing at school. I started making a little bit of progress, but it wasn't fast enough for the session leader, I think, who maybe also wanted to hurry up and get out of there. And people were like shouting loads of encouragement to me, put your foot there, like as if I didn't know how to climb, which just made me feel even more like confused and less confident. Like, what's happening? Like, why does everyone think that I'm like suddenly unable to climb, or that somehow the technical knowledge is the problem, that I suddenly have forgotten how to climb, and that it wasn't an issue of confidence and finding confidence back in myself. People were like, you know, put your hand there and your hand there. Like, I know where to put my hands and legs. I just need, I knew what to do. It's just, I was scared. So the session leader, who is holding the rope, decided that the best thing for me would be to start hoisting me up the climbing wall. So as I wasn't climbing fast enough, this guy started pulling on the rope and dragging me up the climbing wall, kind of like falling in reverse. So I was just scraping my knees and elbows against this wall and the hard plastic holds on the wall. And I was saying, like, stop, but didn't really hear, and like dragged me a good few meters up the wall. Like, I mean, what is this accomplishing? Like, it's not helping me to climb. I'm not climbing. You're just dragging me up a plastic rock face. I suppose he thought it would be good for my confidence or something, or it would be helping me to climb, because again, that I was somehow unable to climb, rather than just needing to find my own way with it, and find my own confidence again. I mean, how would I become more confident if you do this for me? So that pissed me off. And that was the end of it. Like, I think after that episode, the whole thing was over and we went home on the minibus. And honestly, I don't remember how I felt. I think I just swallowed my feelings about it. I wish I could say that I went back to the leisure centre the next week and conquered my demons, but I'd had enough of the whole thing. I think the climbing term was over. I didn't really have any way of processing my feelings and frustration about it, so I just shelved the whole thing. So I wish I could say that I conquered my fear and became an expert climber. The one thing that has changed over the years, though, is probably my mindset. I still have a tendency sometimes when I'm tired or overwhelmed to get into that negative spiral where thoughts affect mood, which affects my behaviour, which affects my thoughts, and on and on. But these days I usually take better care of myself so I don't get into that spiral. And I can also notice those unhelpful thoughts about myself or other people and change the record. That kind of mindfulness skill of, what am I thinking? Is this helpful? Who am I taking myself to be? What am I telling myself about this situation? who am I taking other people to be? But there is a little bit of a redemption arc to this story, I suppose. The other person I told this story to was my daughter, who had a abseiling trip she was going on, and there were 3 heights from which she could abseil, and she wasn't sure about going on the highest one. And so I told her this story to explain how we talk ourselves out of things, how they become terrifying to us once our thoughts head in a certain direction and gain momentum if we don't step in and question what we're thinking about things. And so she went on the abseiling trip a few weeks later, and she said she was excited about it, which surprised me. She said that once she got to the edge of the precipice, there was a moment of fear, and then she relaxed back, let the harness take her weight, and stepped backwards. And far from being scared like I was, once she'd finished her first descent, she got right back in the queue and did it again, and did it again.